Okay, so back to our what we are discussing today. Back to what we are discussing today, and that is how family affects us in the university. So yes, you've gained admission into school, and it seems like you've won the jackpot, which you have actually. You've won the jackpot because it's a breakthrough in your life when you gain admission to university. It's a breakthrough. You've moved a step further in your life. But how does your family affect you? Do you think your family affects you? The truth is that your family affects you. The family you come from affects you. And you say, how or why? What do I mean? Now, let me explain. Number one, there are different types of families. People come from different types of families. Some come from happy families. Happy families. Everybody's happy at home. Let me put on the lights. Every Everybody's happy at home, everybody's excited. When you are leaving home for school, people feel bad, your family members feel bad. They're like, oh, he's going to school now, or she's going to school now, you're going to miss him or miss her. And there's just that love, there's a bonding, the family is together, there's this joy and all of that. But for some other families, it's the opposite. They are relieved to see that that person goes to school. They are relieved. They feel like, thank God, we are going to have peace in this house. So you would notice that the influence of family is real in the life of a student on campus. The influence of family is real. So you see, this student has gained admission coming from a family not happy to leave home, but has to leave home because, of course, something good has happened, admission has come, and he or she is excited and they go to school. So, but they come from a family where there's so much love, there's so much peace, they can be themselves. That is a very solid foundation for that student to settle down, to read and excel in the academics. Is a solid foundation. Is a solid foundation any day. But look at the flip side. A student that is coming from a home where there's no love, where there's no support emotionally, where there's no comfort, when they come out to campus, they are like relieved. Thank God I'm out of that house. I don't even want to be in that house. And so they are relieved to be out of the home. But guess what? Does it affect their daily lives as students? Yes, it affects their character. It affects how they relate with their mates. It affects how they approach people, approach things. They can be the angry ones on campus. They can be the ones that just flare up over little things. They can be the one that are suspicious of people. They can be the ones that they can't find meaningful relationships around them. Why? Because of the kind of families they come from. They come from families where there's no love, where there's no trust, where there's no communion, no connection. So guess what? They'll be in that very, very disruptive frame of mind. So they find it hard to trust people. They find it hard to collaborate in class. They are the ones that will not want to connect, or they will not want to cooperate when there's a class assignment and there are groupings and people are grouped. They will not want to cooperate because they are not used to cooperation. They are used to fighting for their own. They are used to, looking for solutions themselves. They are not used to being helped. They are not used to, enjoying life in a communal level because there's no cooperation from home. There's no people don't come together at home, and that also affects their lifestyle in school. Another negative effect of coming from a home where there's no love or no support, emotional support I'm talking of this time, is that they can become people that are withdrawn on campus. They're not able to speak up, they're not able to say their minds, they're not able to relate with people, cordially. And not because they don't want to, they actually desire to, but because the life they are used to, or the what has been going on in their family, what they have grown up with, their upbringing says, or they are used to being harsh, or being in a harsh environment and reacting harshly to get people's attention, they just find out that they are just like that on campus. And so that hinders relationship. That even breaks up friendships. So your families, the families you come from actually affect you in school. Now that's I've talked about loving and the opposite side, a family coming from a family that is not loving. Now let's look at another level. Let's look at families that are together and families that are separated. There will also be the way it shows on campus as a student. So yes, this girl comes from a family that they are together, there's love, there's community, communal sharing, and all of that. And then another person, the flip side, comes from a home where they are divorced, and the divorce was not even a peaceful one, was a very harsh, very toxic divorce, that there were lots of shaming and pain and all of that. She comes into school, or he comes into school with a lot of baggage, with a lot of shame, personal shame, comes into school with a lot of, pain they are trying to cover, or they are looking for somebody that will show them love because they didn't get love at home. So they come into that space and they are like, so nobody loves me. So they're always looking for love. They're always looking for love. You find them on campus always looking for love, thinking, does this guy like me? Does this girl like me? Why do they not like me? Or hear them making comments like, I want this guy to like me. He must like me. Or I want this girl to like. So there's a lot of neediness. They come into campus very needy. And it's also not their fault. It's because of where they are coming from. Okay, so we've talked about loving family, we've talked about a divorced or broken family, somebody coming from that end as well. Now, let's talk about another type of family or another level when we are talking about families now. Let's talk about social economic factors. Now, someone coming from a family where they are financially strong, meaning the parents would not struggle to pay fees, their upkeep will always be ready. They will always have upkeep money. They will not struggle in raising money for stuff. If the school says everybody should pay 50,000 by the end of this month, and that's not school fees. If the school says everybody should pay this money by the end of the month, it's just a chicken change. The parents will just send it to their account and they will just pay. It will not cost them anything, as in they are financially buoyant because of the kind of families they came from. So if it's someone like that, guess what? To an extent, that person would have less worries when it comes to finances. So that person doesn't need to worry. When it comes to money, that person is not bothered because there's already a backup for money. So there's no worry in terms of finances. But look at the flip side. Someone whose parents are still trying to pay fees. They've not paid three-fourth of these fees. Maybe they just paid one-fourth for the student to come in, and then maybe give the student, say, 5,000 naira for the entire week or for 2 weeks. Please manage this 5,000 for the next 2 weeks. And in that 5,000 is food, is provisions, is and by provisions I mean groceries. Okay, is any payments, photocopying, printing, everything that's going to be done in school for the next 1 week or 2 weeks is that 5,000 naira. Guess what? Even though that child or that student is in class, a lot of times his mind will wander to money. Would I have enough money? Especially if the lecturer mentions, oh, we are going to everybody should contribute, we are going to print out this document or that document. That student in class will be thinking, if I remove that 200 naira now from that 5,000, how much is left? So every time their minds are not settled. Their minds are not settled. Yes, the very strong ones will try their best to concentrate, will give it their best. They will try and concentrate in class and do what is necessary and try and do all the assignments and all. but not all students, especially this generation we are dealing with. In my generation, it was easy. It was easy because even if you didn't have money, you can go and sit with your friend and they can feed you for a week. You just be eating from there. But in this generation, there's a lot of fronting, there's a lot of forming, there's a lot of fake life. So it's a bit more difficult. But the truth is that if you have good friends, if you have people that you can rely on, it can actually be a cover for you in this period. But anyway, it's important that you know that family affects the kind of family you come from, affects your productivity or how you behave in school. It affects you to a great deal. So we've talked about loving family or and coming from an unloving family. We've talked about coming from a broken home or coming from a home where parents are together. And we're also now talking about financial, socioeconomic factors, financial stability. If you're coming from a home that is financially stable, to a good extent, you would not need to worry about basics. But you are coming from a family where basics are not even assured, it will be difficult for you to stay there. It will be difficult for you to for your mind to be in class all the time. So even if you're physically in class, your mind may not be there, especially when a fee is mentioned that, oh, you guys have to pay this. Your mind may not be there, not because you don't want it to be there, but because you are thinking of the implication of that money. And I think that is very, 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 is very, very important that we know that that is a factor. As students, that is a factor. That is a factor. As students, we must know that that is a factor. Okay, still on it. Um, we've talked about loving, we've talked loving family, we've talked about broken family, we've talked about financially buoyant family. Now, these are the families I want to focus on. Now, what should be your posture in case if you fall into any of these groups, which you would, or categories? What should be your posture? If you come from a loving family, or you come from a family where there's not enough money, or you come from a family where they are very cold, nobody cares about the other, or you come from a family where everybody's so loving, you support each other, everyone's one person's fight is everybody's fight. Now, what will happen in such a place is that you will find you will need to know, have a knowledge of where you are coming from and be able to position yourself to where you are going to. So you must have sufficient knowledge of where you are coming from and position yourself to where you are going to. Now, what do I mean by that? If you come from a family that is loving, you already know that you have support from home, emotional support. You already know you have emotional support, emotional strength from home. But you also know that you need to deliver because your family members are counting on you to deliver. Your family members are counting on you to deliver in your educational pursuit. So you must deliver. So yes, you've gained vision. Yes, you come from a loving family, but you must deliver. Even though you don't feel so much of a pressure, but you also know that you need to deliver, at least to make your family happy. So you need to define what kind of family do I come from and be able to chart your course well. Now let's talk about the flip side of a loving family. If you come from a family where there's no love, if you come from a family where there's no trust, if you come from a family where there's no community sharing, meaning you can't be yourself around them, you can't be vulnerable around them, chances are when you come to school, you have that kind of behavior towards others as well. But you can begin to chart a new course for your life. So if you come from a family where there's no, you can't be free with your sibling or you can't be free with your parents. If you come from that kind of family, you should sit yourself down, having a conversation with yourself and God, and determine this is where I come from. Write it out. This describe the family you come from. This is the kind of family I came from. But this is the kind of family I would like to raise. And hence, because I want to raise this kind of family, a family where there's love, where there's trust, where there's community, where there is, you know, where there is, relationship, where there's a love relationship, because this is what I want. I'm going to need this to become a fully rounded individual. And what is it you need? As someone coming from a cold background in terms of family, what do you need? Number one, you need to begin to read books to build your mind. Read books to build your mind. Educate your mind and say, even though I'm coming from a family that is not loving, that is not caring, and all that, I need to be caring. I need to change the narrative. So you accept responsibility. So you begin to read books and say, what kind of books will open my mind to be more caring, to be a loving person, a warm person? What kind of books would help me, and things like that? You begin to read books concerning it. As you begin to do that, guess what? You are changing the narrative for your own life. You are making the difference already. Begin to read books that will open your mind and expose you. That's one. Now, number two, you also need to intentionally begin to write out, what are the things I want to see in my family? What are the things I want to see in my life? Write it out and be deliberate and go for them. And say, oh, even though I come from a cold family, they don't really have my time at home. Everybody's on their own at home. But this is not how I'm going to live my life. So even starting from now, as I'm a student, I'm going to be friendly to people. I'm going to begin to talk to people and be genuinely interested in other people's lives. I'm going to go out of my way and be nice to people. And even when I get back home, I'm going to be nice to my family members. I'm going to care. I'm going to think and talk with them, so that you are changing the narrative, because you don't want that thing to continue with you. You've seen that is not positive. You've seen that it does not help you. It doesn't help your family members. So why should you continue something that is wrong? I see students when I worked in the university. I see students that come to campus, and it's obvious that they come from such families because they are cold and distant towards their mates, cold and distant towards their roommates, classmates, lecturers, even their counselor, because I was their counselor. They are cold and distant, and you try to reach out to them, and they are like, I'm not interested. Please just be on your own. They just have um that kind of attitude towards life and towards people. And I understand, I get it, because of where they are coming from. But you can change the narrative. You can say, you know what, that's not going to be me. I know I'm coming from such a family, but I don't want to propagate that kind of family when I finally have my own family. So you begin to work on yourself now while on campus. So go out of your way, socialize a bit more, go out of your way. Go out of your join fellowship on campus, join clubs that will enhance you, maybe art club, maybe speaking club where they'll teach about public speaking. Join something, push yourself out of your comfort zone and say, you know what, even though I'm coming from this family where they don't really allow us be ourselves and express ourselves, I choose to express myself, so that you can come out of the shell that you are coming from. I think that is very, very key. So I say number one, read books. Number two, outline the things you want to change, the things you are looking out, you want to change, and indeed begin to change. Number three, begin to change. And that goes for even people from broken homes. Maybe you are coming from a home where your father and your mother, they don't see eye to eye. And these are realities we face. These are realities in real life. I've worked with teenagers like that. I've worked with youths like that. They are coming from homes where their parents don't sit in the same room. They are so upset with each other. It happens, it's a reality, and it's not their fault. It's not the fault of the child, it's not the fault of the teenager. But they found themselves there. Should they kill themselves? No. It's part of your life story. You continue with your life. But you need to begin to make up your mind that even though my parents have this issue, I won't have this issue. So you begin to apply the very same things I said earlier. Begin to say, okay, you know what? My parents are coming from a divorce, and they are not happy with each other. They are resentful towards each other, but I refuse to be resentful. So my parents' fight is between them. It's not between me. So make sure the communication line between your father and your mother is clear. That means you are talking to your father. You're not enemies with your father because of what your mom said. And you're not enemies with your mother because of what your father said. Because they are still your parents. They may have a problem with each other, but you don't have a problem with them. And I'm sure by God's grace, they don't have a problem with you. It's just that they found themselves in this situation. So, as a teenager, as a young person, make sure you don't join, you don't do, what do they call it? You don't choose sides. Oh, I'm with camp A, or I'm with camp B. I don't talk to my mom anymore, or I don't talk to my father anymore. The truth is that there are some relationships in life that are permanent. Some relationships in life are temporal. For example, your friends. You may be a friend with somebody today. In the next 5 years, you may not be their friend again, and that's fine. But there are other relationships like a father, a mother, a brother, a sister, even a wife and a husband is a permanent relationship. It's actually a permanent relationship because society, one thing or another, people don't do it right. That's why there's a breakup and it becomes ex. But if you look at it, there's never an ex-father. This person used to be my father. No. There's never an ex-mother. There's never an ex-brother or an ex-sister. So there are permanent relationships in life. And that is why we must all nurture the relationships, especially the permanent relationships in our lives. Don't joke with them. They may not be the best of people. They may have serious character flaws, but do not ever underestimate the impact on your lives and don't joke with them. As much as possible, play your part. Play your part. So, broken family, forgive your parents. They are only human beings. Yes, they have made their mistake, but forgive them and move on. And move on. You may not know the reason why they broke up or why they are separating, but you have a choice to make a better, to have a better life. You have a choice to change the narrative in your favor. You can begin to, make up your mind right now that even though this is what my parents went through, I, as a young person, as I grow up, I will never be in this situation. So you begin to take the precautions now. You begin to do what it takes to have a beautiful marriage now. And that one of those things is knowledge. You begin to get knowledge, read about marriage, read about so that you don't fall into the same situation. Don't say, because I'm not going to get married in the next 10 years, let me just forget that for now. No, from now, begin to read about marriage. Begin to read about marriage. Begin to find information and read about marriage. I think that is very important. And along with the other points I've mentioned, read books on it. Take deliberate steps in that area. Take deliberate steps. Join programs. Go for programs, seminar. Take deliberate steps to make sure you are doing it right. And that is very, very, very important. Now, let's talk about someone coming from a home. Let's talk about the financially buoyant and the financially non-buoyant, meaning some people that can afford to pay their fees in one go and afford everything they need for campus and even have excess. For these kinds of people, it's important that they know who they are. And it's also important that they begin to define what they cannot go into. Because something that happens for young people is that when there's a lot of money, there's a tendency to go into drugs, a tendency to go into funny stuff. There's a tendency to begin to get girls because of money, begin to throw it in the faces of girls so they can sleep with them. There's a tendency to misbehave. I think that's the word. There's a tendency to misbehave, especially a child that has not been trained with, that doesn't have solid values. There's a tendency to misbehave when there's a lot of money. So such a student, you're on campus now, you have a lot of money. I mean, you pay your fees in one go. Some of you even pay your fees before school resumes. Your parents have sent your fees, paid your fees, you have a lot of money to spend, and you are wondering, I'm good, nothing is wrong with me. I'm not saying something is wrong with you. I'm saying that you need to define how you spend money, define your lifestyle. Because you have an excess of 50,000 or 100,000 every month to spend, does not mean you should spend everything. It's time for you to be financially wise, begin to save, begin to invest, put in things to invest, begin to, look for opportunities to, be financially responsible. Somebody told me that while they were in school, they all gathered money together and they bought land. They were not excessively rich, but they had some excess after they've taken their weekly expense and monthly expense from what their parents gave them. They still had enough to save, and they saved money so much that they came together and they bought land. They were students in school and they all had shares in that land. And he was telling me, he said, you know what? Years after we left school, we sold that land and everybody got money, good money. So there are ways you can harness this excess money. If you are that student that you have excess money on campus, look for ways to invest. It's not the time to sleep around and promise girls stuff and start spending your money on all the girls on campus and start having 520 girlfriends or boyfriends. Because when it's the girls that have a lot of money, they begin to spend money on boys. Some will even pay the boyfriend school fees. Those things don't make sense. They don't make sense. The man is not married to you. Why are you spending? Why are you taking up a responsibility that has not been given to you? You're not a wife. You're a student. So by all means, if you are financially buoyant as a student, coming from a very rich home, your excess money should go to savings or should go to investments. Now let's look at the flip side. If you are coming from a home where you are barely feeding, your fees are barely paid, meaning you struggle to pay your fees. You are just struggling to pay your fees. If you come from that kind of home, please, by all means, number one, concentrate on your academics the best you can. Number two, look for ways to earn on campus. Think. That's where creative thinking comes in. Think, in what ways can I earn on campus that will not disrupt my academics? Because your academics is number one, of course, after God. God is first. And then your academics is number two. Let's say number two, yes. So how can I earn such that it will not affect my academics? Because you can go and earn go for your earning so much and begin to miss out on classes, miss out on assignment, miss out on exams. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying something you can combine with your academics so much that you will not have need, or it will not affect your academics. You will still go for your classes, you would still finish up with your assignment, you still be there for your exams. That's what I'm talking about. There is something like that in your school. Think. If there is no structure like that already, think. Ask God to give you an idea. Ask God to give you an idea. You'll be shocked that it's possible for you to earn comfortably right there on campus. It may even be an online business you would find. Maybe you just be a middleman to reach out to people. It may just be a middleman kind of business. You may just be doing a middleman and earning money, taking a product from the manufacturer to the person who needs it, or from a distributor to the person who needs it. You may just be a middleman. But as a middleman, you are making money. So even though you are not coming from a rich home, you can still conveniently be able to take care of yourself on campus. So there are options. There's even this one. It may seem as if it's degrading, but it's not. You can sell things on campus. We all know. You can sell things on campus. Oh, your parents just paid your fees. And in fact, I know a student who came up to me and said, you know what? My parents will just pay my fees and say, fend for yourself. So the highest my father did once was that my father gave me 5,000, and that 5,000 was for the month. I said, wow. In 2021, I think that was last year. Was it last year or early this year? I don't know. I know it was not so long ago. And he said, my father will just give me 5,000. He has paid my fees. Then he just gives me 5,000 and says, fend for yourself. Take care of yourself. And I was like, wow, that's such a burden on a student, on a young teenager. That's such a financial burden, right? That's such a burden. But I said to him, I said, see, that's the best your father can do for now. So just bear with him. But in the meantime, think, in what ways can you earn? In what ways? Think. What do students like? What do they go for? Or what do lecturers need? What do they go for? You can think and ask God for ideas, and you can get an idea to run a business while on campus. I remember mentioning to him, I said some lecturers on this campus, because they come from very far, they do not have time to wash their cars, maybe till the weekend. They come from very far, so they come very early, they leave and get home late. They come like that with their car the next day. Have you considered washing cars for lecturers? Think, there's always something. You can begin to earn quietly. For some people, it's washing clothes. You can begin to wash clothes for people. There's always something you can do. For the women, you can weave hair, you can do makeup, you can sell jewelries. So much you can do. You can sell clothes, shoes, whatever. You can design online products that people can buy from you right on campus. So the truth is that even though you're coming from a home where financially there is instability or there is not enough, you can still make ends meet. So whatever home you come from, whatever family you come from, do not look down on yourself, number one. Do not look down on yourself. Even if you are coming from a broken home, if you are coming from a home where there's not enough money, if you are coming from a home where there's not enough love, nobody has anybody's time, everybody's on their own, do not look down on yourself. You are made in God's image, you are made in his likeness. Do not look down on yourself. Raise your head high and say, even though this is where I'm coming from, that's not where I'm going to. It may be my past, but it's not my future. So in case if you fall into the flip side, the negative side, like your family is from the negative side of life in terms of what is going on now, do not give up on your dreams. Do not give up on yourself. Raise your head high. Yes, acknowledge where you're coming from. That is where I'm coming from. I'm coming from that home. I'm coming from that home, but I'm going to a better place. So begin to position yourself for that better place by the choices you are making right on campus. Begin to position yourself for a better place. And I think that is very, very critical. Okay, so now let's go to the second part. I said I was going to talk about two things: family expectations and or family factors, and then social life on campus. So yes, you've gained admission. Yes, you are in year one. Yes, you've done a few courses, you started lectures and all of that. But what's your social life like? Don't be the kind of student that you just go to class, from class, if there's fellowship, to fellowship, from fellowship you go to your room and you lock up. You could do that many years ago and get away with it. Right now, one of the currencies of the future is relationships, social relationships. It's networking. Bless me. It's networking, social, the way you relate with people. It's one of the currencies for the future. If you don't know how to network, if you don't know how to reach out to people, the truth is that to an extent, you may face some disadvantage. If you don't know how to reach out to people and all of that, you may face some disadvantage to an extent. So I'll encourage you, try and be social. Even though you're a very quiet person, try and be social. Go for programs. I'm not saying every program you hear of on campus you rush to it. No, that's not what I'm saying. Programs that align with your values, align with where you are going to, make sure you attend. Some of you, this is the only time you have the calmness to listen or go for seminars. Some of you, the moment you leave school, you are going to be so busy. When you get an international job, you'll be traveling from place to place. You probably will not be able to sit down in one place and listen to talks on marriage, on relationship. You probably not have time again to listen to how to relate with people, emotional intelligence. So now those talks are coming to your school. Maybe your school is inviting some professionals, some experts to talk on things. Make sure you attend. Make sure you are there. Make sure you are there. All this make us a better human being, makes us a refined human being, a better version of ourselves. So go for trainings. If there are clubs in your school, if there are social clubs in your school, let's say for example art club, go join if that's your passion, if it aligns with you. If there's singing club, go and join. As far as the clubs you join and their commitment do not affect your academics, if you can combine all of them, by all means, combine all of them. Go and join them by all means. It's so important so that you don't lose out on life. So that you can reach out to people and people can reach out to you and you can be a better version of yourself. I think that is very critical. So as young people, don't hide yourself in. Don't shut yourself in. Sports is going on. Even though you are not playing with them, once in a while, step out and just sit down and watch. Even though you are not on the field with them, you can step out once in a while and just watch. But by all means, be social. Some people don't even go to fellowship, they don't go to anything. So from class to the hostel, they lock themselves up to the next day. From class to the hostel, and that's how they are living their life. No, life is not lived like that. And some of those people will not even relate well with their roommates and people in their hostel because they are too quiet, too shy, run, and that's like living a low life when you can live a higher life. I'm not saying everybody will be extroverts. No, no. But I'm only saying that do not deny yourself of opportunities to meet people, especially your peers and great people. Great people. Some people come, you have experts, you have professionals coming to your school, and you hide, you don't go for such programs. You're not doing them, you are missing out. You're not paying your school back for you something they did to you or they didn't do for you. You're actually missing out. So it's so important as young people, please expose yourself to knowledge, expose yourself to things that would help you, expose yourself to healthy atmospheres. Some of you don't know how to dance, some of you don't know how to sing, some of you don't know how to cook, some of you don't know how to do things that are apart from academics. If such opportunities are bound in your school to learn these things, by all means learn. By all means learn. Don't be too busy. Don't be too it's just my books I came for. It's just you would miss out. I'm not saying join all the groups. No, I'm saying pick one that aligns with you and put your energy into it. Meet people, relate to people outside class. Let's not be only in class you see human beings. Some of you, once you leave your hostel, from your room to your class, from that class to another class, that class to another class to another class, library, from there you come back to your room, lock up till the next day, and the circle continues. That's such a low way to live. It's a low life, low level of living. You need to interact with people and have the currency of social interaction. It's very, very important for now and for the future. I think that's all. So thank you so much for joining me today. Our YouTube audience, our Instagram audience, thank you so much for joining me today. We trust that next time we'll be able to bring much more to you. Next month, like I said earlier, next month we are going to be focusing on the individual, what's happening on the inside of the individual. So we're going to be focusing on you. By that I mean we'll be talking about self-concept, self-esteem, self-efficacy, and we're going to be bringing people, and so it's going to be an interactive session. For the month of November, we're going to be having interactive sessions on our YouTube and on Instagram. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you in the next one, and that will be next week, Tuesday, and it's also a new month as well. So thank you so much, and see you next week. Thank you. Bye bye. Hosanna, oh, Je, Je,